financial one.
Okay, 5:30, everyone. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Have staff go ahead and do the roll call tonight.
Brown.
Here.
Fenlon.
Here.
Black, absent prior notice. Yoder.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Nixon.
Here.
Creaky.
Here.
Bailey. Here. Heiser, absent prior notice. Logan.
Here.
And
Ruddle.
Ruddle.
It's like Russell with D's. Puddle with an R.
Thanks for that correction.
You remember the second one easier than the first one.
Okay, and with that, we can consider our agenda. I have no changes to make.
We approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Seconded by Mr. Logan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to conflict of interest. If anyone has any, please say so. Doesn't appear to have any conflict of interest. Public comment? Larry, do you want to wait till your time there? Okay. No public comment. Moving on, staff comment.
Nothing right now.
Okay. Consider the last month's January 27th, 2026 meeting minutes. If there's any discussion on that.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 27th as presented.
Second. Motion by Ms. Bailey and seconded by Mr. Ruddle. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We don't have any old business tonight. We do have some new business, and before we talk about that, I just wanted to take a minute to kind of remind everyone that the purpose of this board is to be a recommendatory board, which means that we don't approve or deny anything that comes our way, but we are, and our intention should be to give a recommendation one way or the other as things come past our desks. There may be special exceptions to that. We will deal with those as they come to us. And with that being said, we can go ahead and move into our first new business item this evening, PC 03-2026-03, Cleveland Township text amendment regarding mining. And I will open the floor to discussion, or we can go through it. Oh, excuse me, Gail, go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. This is a request that we received on February 5th, and the last day of review under the 30-day review period is March 7th. The requested action was to review and comment on proposed text amendment to the Leelanau Township zoning ordinance. Section 9.01 uses permitted, and section 9.08 mining, sand, and gravel extraction and removal of topsoil. And down to section 3, township plan, Cleveland Township Master Plan states the following. Chapter 6, goals, objectives, and action steps on page 63. Environment, objective 6, protect the natural environment from the negative impacts of human actions, including air quality, shoreline activities, soil erosion, vibration, and other negative impacts. Chapter 7, future land use and zoning plans. Also mentions agricultural. The agricultural district is designated to accommodate active farming activities in the township, as well as forestry, sawmills, maple syrup, plant nurseries, riding stables, mining, and parkland. Leelanau general plan states in chapter 4, under balanced growth, protect sand and gravel resources. Lands with large amounts of marketable sand and gravel deposits should be identified and protected from conversion to other uses or from being surrounded by residents to the degree that future extraction would be precluded. Existing sites of former extraction activities should be reclaimed. And in chapter 7 or chapter 12, extraction of the minerals should be based upon local plans and regulations which provide for the protection of priority sand and gravel resources and the surrounding environments and the reclamation of extraction sites. The Cleveland Township Planning Commission held a public hearing on February 4th, at which time no public comments were received. And after the public hearing was closed, they did pass a motion. There is a note that the township minutes were not available at the time this report was prepared. Section 4, analysis. Proposed text to pedal with other language in the zoning ordinance. Yes, it is. Are there any issues with proposed text? No, there is not. We did not find any issues greater than local concern. And section 5. See, we've shown you how the current zoning ordinance reads at section 9.01, uses permitted. And also, page 8, we've shown you how the current section 9.08 mining, sand and gravel extraction, and removal of topsoil reads. So this proposed amendment, I was a little confused. I read it as deleting II, which is maple syrup reducing plants, and F. And I'm not sure the first one there, II, should be removed,
I think that's an error.
but it's listed on the proposed amendment that was sent over.
Right.
That should be a little. And then the proposed amendment will also delete that section 9.08 that coincides with F. According to the township, allowing commercial mining activities would be contrary to the master plan. Therefore, it was recommended that the township review the current ordinances section addressing mining. Township minutes indicate that reviewing the results of the past resident survey were suggested to assess resident support or lack of support for mining. But staff did not find any further discussion regarding the outcome of this review.
Great, thanks, Gail. And with that, I suppose we can have everybody say anything they'd like to say about our first item tonight. Mr. Miller, do you want to start?
Okay, a couple questions, I guess, regarding what I see. And we'll start on page 6, the second from last comment. It says, protected from conversion to other uses or from being surrounded by residents to the degree that future extraction. Residents. And other development around it, as long as it's not residential, would be okay. Not sure that that's their intent. Maybe surrounded by other occupancies, or something with residents is a little challenging here. And then on page 8, about the middle of page of D. Not more than 2 acres shall be actively mined at any one time. Non-active gravel operations shall be reclaimed under provisions of 9.8, but doesn't really say any kind of a timeline. So, okay, one area is active, the other area is no longer active, but at what point shall be reclaimed? Or But I think they need to have a timeline in there. Then the next paragraph, the last sentence is asphalt plants are not permitted. I'm not sure why they put it in there. Or why they aren't talking about concrete plants either. Both of them use the sand and gravel. So it kind of leaves it open to concrete. You could put concrete there, but you can't put an asphalt plant. I'm not sure why both aren't included. If that's the intent.
Yeah.
All right, I misread it. I apologize. I think she's right. It is deleting that paragraph anyways. Then still the question about restoration. It should be somewhere. I don't see it anywhere else. And they're not prohibiting asphalt plants and ready mix plants. Maybe they want to. It just, now, if you're deleting even the asphalt, it's an open issue for both. That's my observations.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Creedy, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I would just say that, based on the staff's report, where there's no conflicts of any kind. I have no other comments to deal with the details of this.
Craig?
The only thing that I had, the one that Gail brought up was the section II. Wondering if that was not intended to be in there or have it be removed. So. Get further in that. Can't comment.
Thank you. Lois?
So I agree. I mean, they list the maple syrup as allowable use in the agricultural district, so we left that in. But then when they said that they were going to delete II, maple syrup production plants, that doesn't seem to be consistent. And they repeated that again. Proposed amendment will delete section 901, II, maple syrup producing plants and mining activities. So I'd say that doesn't make sense. We're working on reducing activities of mining and disturbance and limited land that Cleveland Township has. What's the mistake? I don't know. No other explanation. That's from our audience. So.
Any other comments?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I concur with, well, what staff brought up and then a couple of my colleagues brought up here too. I was confused just about the maple syrup producing plants, because I was reading through their memo that they brought, or that they gave to staff, and they pretty much stated in there everything related to mining they're taking out and never mentioned maple syrup type of stuff. But yet, you know, up in the second paragraph, they put II in there as the only thing I can find in there. But that was my only question for them, would be, that was their intent to remove that, because I felt like that was, I mean, based on the language of their master plan, I felt like that was consistent with their master plan, and I think it's an agriculture use. So, but I understand with the mining, and other than that, I have no issues. But that was just the major or the minor detail that I was a little confused with this. So.
Thank you. Does anyone know if Cleveland Township currently has mining going on?
That's a great question.
No.
I don't know that. I'm assuming they may not, because they're not talking about reclaiming anymore.
Okay,
Maybe that's why they're not talking about that.
so I didn't see that, and I wasn't sure, which, when I noticed on the bottom of page 8,
that they're deleting section 9.08. I assume maybe that meant they don't have it anymore. But if they do have something going on, then I would recommend on page 8, they kind of like, I think, Mr. Miller was saying, I would keep at least subsection A in the middle of the page in the event that they have activities or have had activities going on. They need some language in there that would strengthen the activities that would possibly have already occurred, so that they're not unattractive in their appearance. And then I think, given the strength of what they've said in here, I would just recommend they state somewhere in their zoning ordinance, something to the effect that says, based upon our master plan, commercial mining activities are not welcome in our township. I'm not sure you can deny anything, but I think the term welcome might allow them, any who's reading that, to realize the intent is from the master plan. Otherwise, we don't want any mining activity going on in our township. But I know they cannot probably deny that because that's a business activity, but they can certainly state in there, and I would encourage them to consider that, something that says they're not welcome in the township. Those are my 2 comments.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Ruddle.
Yeah, I would concur with what Tom said. I think that if there is any active activities right now, there needs to be some guidance on how those get wound down and what's in here seem like would be reasonable until those activities are done. I was also confused with the request by the township that talked about section 901 IIF mining. So I went and printed off their master plan on both sections 901 and 908. And I think I understand what they did, and it looks pretty clearly to me that that's a typo, because II maple syrup goes with part C above it. It doesn't go with part D below it. If that's, you want to see this, I think it's pretty clear. I think everybody would agree that so that's one thing. I think it's just a typo, whoever sent the request in. It just refers to mining. I guess the other thing is that if mining is removed, where does mining show up in the master plan? And how do you pull it out of places like in the non-residential district section of the master plan that refers to mining? This document doesn't talk about that, and that's outside of both section 9.01 and 9.08. So there may be just some ambiguity if they leave mining in here, like it's something that's approved, but it's taken out in other places. It just might be better to clarify that, make that a change while they're doing all of this.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, one more.
Sure.
While I was doing some research, I found that that 39% of the acreage in Cleveland Township is Sleeping Bear Inns.
Yeah.
I think that's and so that just substantiates, I think, the change they're making. I think it's a really good thing that they're doing here.
Looking at it, I was trying to figure out what the intent was, and I believe it is to deter the activity based on the 2 acreages and the time limits of when things can happen. Asphalt plant's not permitted, means they just don't want hydrocarbons in the area with the 2 lakes that they've got, and a lot of Cleveland Township is lowland. It makes a lot of sense. And again, and like he said, it is a lot of the township is the national park. So I think the intent is to probably curtail anything from happening on a large scale. And that's why limiting it to the 2 acres is probably the reason for that. For any guidance from us that when they can change.
I also believe that they made a clerical error I is likely just a mistake. They will clarify that, with their own change. And so I'm not hung up on that in terms of being able to still make a recommendation, given, everything that we've talked about. The only comment that I would add at all is the clarification in their master plan is gonna be, I think, very important if they do decide to make that change. There was a mention of survey and how that relates to not wanting, like, include that, it would be my advice. And other than that, I think they're doing something that's reasonable and seems to fit, other than clarifying that bit of language within their master plan, so. Yeah, welcome any further discussion, if anyone has anything else to add. I would entertain a motion now.
So we should recommend to approve the change to removing the mining activities and send our comments to Cleveland Township.
I support that.
All right, there's a motion by Ms. Bailey, supported by Mr. Nixon. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We're moving on to our next new business item, and we have a guest here this evening. So if you would like to come up and take the floor, Larry, it's all yours.
Okay,
You can introduce yourself, I imagine.
thank you. My name is Larry Mawby. I am here at the invitation of Gail, who reached out to me and suggested that it would be appropriate for me to make a brief presentation to Planning Commission about the activities of the nonprofit that I represent. I was unable to make the November meeting that he had about similar issues, and there, so I'm going to briefly tell you what Peninsula Housing is, what a community land trust is, and encourage you to ask me any questions that are elicited. I do have some handouts, but I'm going to give them to you at the end so you don't look at them while I'm talking to you, because you'll be distracted too much by the beauty of these pieces. These are the take-home things. Peninsula Housing is a nonprofit, director-managed entity under Michigan law. We are a community land trust, and we're very much like the community land trusts that exist in other states around the country. The community land trusts have been in existence in the United States since the 1970s. There are several community land trusts in Michigan. The closest one to us here in Leelanau County is in Benzie County. It used to be called the Frankfurt Area Community Land Trust. Just recently, they changed their name to Housing Trust of Benzie. They formed about the same time we did it, in 2021. There is a long-standing community land trust in the Boyne City area, Northern Homes. They've been in existence for at least 25 years. There are other community land trusts in Southwest Michigan. Probably the largest in the state is Dwelling Place, headquartered in Grand Rapids. It serves 5 counties in around Grand Rapids and to Muskegon and south. The community land trusts are a response to the crisis of affordable housing. They really started in the South, and their name, I think, the 3 important words are community, land, and trust. Historically, they have been organized by people in a community to acquire land and hold it in trust for the community to make sure that housing that's built on that land is affordable and stays affordable. It's a very simple premise. It's very complicated to enact. We, as a community land trust, have, in the 4 years that we've been in existence, acquired 2 homes, one in Suttons Bay Township, adjacent to the village of Suttons Bay, one in the village of Northport. Both of those homes, we did some rehabilitation on them, and then retaining the ownership of the land under the home, we sold the home to families in both of those communities. And I can talk a little bit more about how that works. The other housing property that we acquired is a duplex in Lake Leelanau. We acquired that from a landlord who was retiring, and he was concerned about the fact that he felt he needed to sell his property for whatever the market would bring. And he knew that his rents for his tenants were well below the market and would be really below the market after another landlord acquired his property and wanted to get some return on their investment. So we acquired the property, maintained the rent so that the 2 families that live in either side of that duplex could continue to stay there. And we have an agreement with Homestretch. I think John Stimson from Homestretch was at your Burnley, so you know what Homestretch is. They are our rental manager for that property. In addition to those occupied, we acquired in Suttons Bay Township, adjacent to the village of Suttons Bay, but not in the village of Suttons Bay, 2 parcels of property that combined are 11 acres in size. We're working with Suttons Bay Township Planning Commission and Suttons Bay Township Board to affect zoning changes consonant with the Planning Commission, with the master plan for the township. And we have hopes that we will be able to develop in this year and next year and the following year, over the next 3 years, a total of 40 residential housing units on that property. We are working with Homestretch, who will, we don't have anything legally in writing, but we have working. They intend to build 8 residential rental apartments in the model that they have done elsewhere in Suttons Bay Township and in Honor and Frankfurt around the area. We intend to develop up to 32 homes and duplex, single family homes and duplexes for sale. So that project is a combination of rental properties and for sale properties. The way a community land trust maintains the affordability of properties is, simply stated, we sever the ownership between the land and all the improvements on the land. We retain the land, we sell the improvements on the land to an individual or a family, and we give them an 89-year ground lease so that the improvements that they own can sit on the land that we own. The ground lease restricts the resale price of the improvements that we've sold to them. Typically, community land trusts sell the improvements at a discount of their real value. Typically, it's 25%. Our experience in Leelanau County is that the cost of housing is so great compared to what people can afford that we have discounted at about 30 or 35% rather than just the 25%. So there's a significant discount to appraised value that those homes are sold. And the ground lease restricts the ability, there is a repricing formula for resale formula that is in the ground lease. That means effectively the homeowner will get a share of the increase in value of the home, but not all of it when they resell. They only get 25% of the increase in the value of the home. We as a community land trust are able to keep the home priced for the next buyer at a reduced price so that it stays affordable. So from the perspective of the homeowner buying from us, it's a better deal than renting an apartment, because when you rent an apartment, you just have expense. When they buy a home from a community land trust, as they pay down the principal on the mortgage, they build up equity. And as the property appreciates in value, they build up some equity. They don't build up as much equity as if they owned everything. So it's not as good a deal to them as if they could just go out in the market and buy a home, get a mortgage and pay it. The point is, they can't afford to do that. The cost of housing here is such that they just can't afford to go out in the market and buy it. So it's a better deal than renting. It's not as good a deal as if you could just go buy it, but it is an opportunity for a significant number of the folks who live and work in this county to be able to live in this county. I'm just going to hand out my little handouts. These are 2 sheets, 2 pages. One is what a community land trust, how a community land trust works, this 8 to 9 year ground lease, and the other is what Peninsula Housing is doing. And the second part of that is a shameless opportunity for you to give us money individually, if you like. My job as the president of the board is to never, 2 different things. Okay, I hope. Is to never talk to anybody about what we do without giving them the opportunity to participate in the philanthropic activities that we undertake.
So how much does this page cost?
It's totally free. I do encourage you to really look at what we do. We're not replacing Habitat for Humanity. We're not replacing Homestretch. We and those 2 other entities are nonprofits that work to provide housing for folks that they can afford. We have different ways of doing it. I happen to think our way is the best way, but that's just my opinion. I don't know whether I gave you too much, too little, but please, if anybody's got any questions that you'd like to ask, I'm here to answer questions, and I'd be happy to stay as long as, and if people feel like they don't want everybody to sit around and listen to these, I'd love everybody to hear the questions and the answers, but if the time comes that you want, I'll go stand in the corner and I can talk with any individual.
I would open the floor to our commissioners for questions, for
You're
sure.
gonna need that question?
I see Francis has the hand up. You wanna go ahead?
The impression that I have had about housing in the community is that one of the reasons that it is not affordable is because you have to have a septic, which means that your lot has to be big. Now, it sounds to me like you're getting a little more dense. And, you know, you're 3 to 4 units per acre here. How do you address that? Have you got a community septic or?
Good question. Did everybody hear his question? I'm not sure. Okay. It is true that individual wells and septic systems are tend to be more costly, and they are definitely use more land than a municipal sewer and water system. What we're working with the Township Planning Commission on is a zoning district that allows significant flexibility in lot size and density. We've got work from environmental folks and planners that indicate that we, on that 11-acre site, 8 of those acres, we anticipate having 4 units per acre. So 32, 4 units per acre. And that accommodates wells and septic systems and reserve drain fields. Yeah, these are not large houses.
Yeah.
And it is a density that the township permits now under the existing zoning, but we are seeking some flexibility in terms of setbacks and so on within the development so that we can cluster homes and make a more efficient use of the land. I think one of the misconceptions that people have about the cost of housing in Leelanau is that the land is too expensive. I can assure you that the cost of land is a small fraction of the cost of the housing. The infrastructure and the construction cost itself are way outweigh the cost of land. So.
Yeah, Larry, I want to personally commend you for your efforts and for the last several years in trying to provide affordable housing to our county. Badly needed, and you have gone through and experienced a number of scars. I know that. I know that even personally. It's not been an easy road. But you did say here tonight that you had a better plan than John Stinson might have in housing, or a different plan. But you liked your plan better than Habitat for Humanity or John Stinson's model. What makes yours more attractive to you?
To me?
Yeah, than the others.
The fact that affordability is maintained in perpetuity.
And that's not true of the other two?
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't want to make it sound like
You're selling your product.
I'm just trying to inform you. I'm not trying to sell my product or undersell the other people. They're just different.
But you got to speak properly of what you're working with.
Habitat is about wealth building for families. They're very clear about that, and that's a wonderful thing to do. It does not mean that a Habitat house will stay affordable. It means that the family that gets that house is going to have the opportunity to build family wealth because they'll be able to sell that house at market rates at some point in the future, which is wonderful for them. But it doesn't mean that that's going to stay an affordable house in the future. What the work that Homestretch does, they have never resold anything and made it unaffordable, but their obligation is to satisfy the terms of the lenders and grantors who provided funds to them. Most of those requirements are 15 to 25 year requirements before a rental property can go to market rate. I'm not saying that I'm worried that they will go to market. I'm just saying that there isn't the certainty that Community Land Trust has, where it's our obligation to keep it affordable. That's my only. I think we need all those kind of things because the need in Leelanau County is so big that if Habitat has done. By the time they're done on Bugai Road, that's 14 houses. They did 3 duplexes in Maple City. That's in the last 4 or 5 years. So they've done 17 houses. Home Stretch has done, they're going to do 4 homes in Leelanau County from property that they got from the land bank. They've done an 8-unit apartment in Suttons Bay Township a couple of years ago. They hope to do another 8 on our property. If we could do 3 years from now, if we're all done and we say, gee, between us and Home Stretch on that property in Suttons Bay, we did 40 units. Wonderful. That would be 4 years of work on the part of Habitat, Home Stretch, and us, and we would have roughly 60 housing units. We need more than that every year to satisfy the needs in the county. So we're not coming close. So that's why I said everybody needs to be working on this as much as we possibly can. We just got a market study done for us, partially funded by a grant from Huntington Bank Foundation. I want to give them credit. I'm sharing that widely. I'll send it to Gail and ask her to distribute it to you guys. It's Housing North had Bowen Services do a 10-county housing needs analysis a few years ago. This is done by a different firm, and it's only about Leelanau County, and it's really focused on the county right now and our Suttons Bay projects. But it is compelling. The firm that did it, and when he presented it to my board last Friday, said Leelanau County is the most out of whack of all of the counties that he's ever seen in the state in terms of how much housing costs and the disparity between the cost of housing and the wages of folks in the county and what they can afford. And when you look at I keep in my head the facts about the Suttons Bay community. Of the people who live in the village, or in the Suttons Bay community, not just the village, but the Suttons Bay community, of the people who live there and are working, more than half do not work in Leelanau County. Okay? They live in Suttons Bay and they work remotely somewhere in the world, or they work in Traverse City probably. More than half of the jobs in the Suttons Bay community, the people that work in those jobs, more than half of them do not live in Leelanau County. They live in Traverse or Benzie or Antrim because they can't afford to live in Leelanau County. That is, from the perspective of people who look at communities, that's a really scary thing, because that is that's bad for communities to not be able to have people live and work in the community, to have people who live there not work there, and people who work there not live there. That's really tough, and that's true throughout Leelanau County. So that's one of the things that I think we are working, and we're encouraging local planning commissions and everybody to say, for the health of our county, we need to do something about this. So I'm sorry, I'll tend to rant.
Larry, with your project in Suttons Bay Township, what is it, probably about the average size of the house that's going to be sitting on your property? And then with the discount that you talked about, what would be a typical sales price for that house?
I wish I could tell you the answer to the second question right now.
Just ballpark.
We're looking at about 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom. We have a plan for a 1,020 square foot, 2-bedroom home. That is probably going to cost us around $355,000 all in with the infrastructure and the everything.
That includes the land.
Yeah, we threw in 10 grand for the land. In my spreadsheet of this, but that's what it'll cost us. And that will recover us. Well, we're not going to sell for that, but if we did sell for that, that would recover the cost. That home probably needs to sell for, depending upon what kind of a family and what their, oh, thank you, and what their income is to meet the income capacity of a family making the area median income. We need to sell it for about $100,000 less than it cost us. To meet the 80% of the area median income, we need to go to about $130,000 discount over what it costs us. We're getting, and to get down to half of the area median income, we need to probably sell it for 150 or 160,000, which is a little bit less than half of what it really costs to do it. How do we do that gap? We fundraise. That's why I'm serious about, yes, give us money anytime you feel like it. There are no federal money that's available to counties like Leelanau. Just, we can talk about why, but just start federal monies. There are very few state monies. The focus on state and federal dollars to deal with affordable housing has been to provide rental apartments in urban areas. It's not to deal with rural units of government. We have an opportunity with the Federal Home Loan Bank. Each district of the Federal Home Loan Banks has a grant program. We are desperately trying to be in a position to apply for their grant program. Habitat in Traverse City hasn't used that program, but other Habitat affiliates around the state have been successful in receiving the maximum from that program is $100,000 per unit. And there's 4 habitats in Michigan that last year successfully got $100,000 a unit from that program. That would be wonderful. I don't think we're going to do that because to maximize the return from that, we have to be able to provide housing for people at below 60% of the area median income. And I don't think we can cover the gap. Even their 100,000 is not enough to cover the whole gap that we need. The other place that the gap can be filled is with TIF revenue, which is something that we're talking with local units of government about. And so that's a matter of the local community actually saying, this is the way we're going to help this. We'll approve a TIF plan. And I hope you know what a TIF plan is, but if you don't, we can talk about it later.
I believe the,
okay.
The fall training session was talking
Okay.
about TIFs and pilots and a lot of the tools that are being used or could be. Could be used. So I didn't mean to like speak for.
No, that's great. So TIF,
at least have an idea.
TIF plans could be used to the tax capture for in a TIF plan can be used to pay for those infrastructure costs like the roads, the wells, the septic systems, and a couple other things that are TIF capturable. Any of those systems need financing. A TIF plan, if you have say you have a maxed out 25-year TIF program, whoever's doing the development has spent all the money before year 1 of the TIF, and then they'll get money over 25 years to pay for that, they will have borrowed that money from somebody and will be paying interest on that. The USDA has a program that does provide long-term, relatively low interest loans for some of those facility improvements like water, sewer, and stormwater retention. We will be talking to the Brownfield Authority about them initiating an application to the USDA, because that's the way the USDA works this. They will loan the money to the Brownfield Authority, and the Brownfield Authority will repay them with the money that they capture from the TIF. It's complicated. It's kind of ugly to figure this all out, but it is one way, with the participation of the township and the county, to approve the TIF plan to capture that tax increment for a period of time and use those funds to pay for the infrastructure. That's one of the ways that you can help to fill the gap between what people can afford and what it costs. Private philanthropy is the other piece. So there's 4 sort of sources. In the village of Sutton's Bay, there's another option. It's the only community in the county that qualifies effectively for federal tax credits. The low-income housing tax credits are something that, it's not the only community. The portion of Elmwood Township that's in Traverse City qualifies. But
It's small, yeah.
but that portion of, and technically the village of Northport could, but the scoring system that's used to allocate these things, they don't have enough community amenities to be able to score high enough to get access to them. We've done a test scoring on property in the village of Sutton's Bay, and it scores high enough to be competitive for those things. Those low-income housing tax credit dollars are federal tax credit money that comes in over a 10-year period and is only for rental housing. It's not for home ownership, but it is for rental housing. And it's the major source of funding for lower income rental housing in the country. But we haven't, Leelanau County doesn't have any. To qualify, to the base level of need to qualify, you have to have a municipal water and sewer system serving the property. And there's only 2 places in the county that provide that, the village of Sutton's Bay and the village of Northport. And that portion of Elmwood Township that's in Traverse City and adjacent that has municipal water and sewer. You can't have one, you have to have both. That's why Empire can't qualify. They only have a municipal water system. They don't have a municipal sewer system. Leland has a sewer system, but no water system. Can't even begin to qualify to apply. So.
I know Mr. Miller had a question.
Okay.
Actually, I really like what you're doing. I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
The site improvements relative to sewer, septic, water, is the homeowner maintain that?
Good question, because it's typically, as a community land trust, we just own the land. The homeowner owns everything else. In the case of the house that we purchased, rehabbed, and resold in Sutton's Bay Township, the homeowner owns the well, owns the septic system. They own everything. They own the landscaping, they own the driveway, they own the house, the garage, they own everything except the land itself.
So it's considered part of the improvements.
Yep. And they pay property taxes on that, and they get the principal residence exemption because they live in it.
The second part of that question is 35% Can you explain that again? And also 35% that the valuation of the house, 35%. And then where does the incentive come for the homeowner? Say, the kitchen cabinets broken. Are they gonna replace it with something reasonable and durable with the idea that they put $100 in it and they're gonna get immediately is devalued by 65% in terms of what they can get out.
Mhm. Okay,
What's your experience with that?
very limited because we've only been around for 4 years. Other community land trusts have been around for a lot longer. And in terms of the question of maintenance on the home, the ground lease requires that the homeowner maintain the home. We haven't had the experience of having a homeowner fail to do that. But when the time comes for the home to be resold, when the homeowner wants to sell it, the ground lease can obligate the homeowner to make repairs to make the home okay. If they don't do it, the land trust will do it and reduce the cost of that from their return when they sell the home. So I mean, there's some stuff there to. The bigger concern that people often express is, what about the homeowner who's doing really well and wants to add another bedroom or something? We have a capital improvement. The community land trusts have capital improvement policies that require the homeowner to get approval to make capital improvements. We would, in the case of a homeowner that says we want to add another bedroom, probably that would be approved. If the homeowner says we want to add a master suite and a jacuzzi and other things, it would be, no, now you're making this unaffordable for the next people. So if you can really afford to do that, it's time for you to sell this home and buy another home. We want to keep this affordable. And so capital improvements that add too much. Now, it's also a dumb idea for the homeowner because they're only going to get 25% of the increase in equity. So they wouldn't want to do that. And I think we would be able to explain to them that that's not a good idea. There was another part of your question that I forgot.
No, I think.
Okay, okay.
How do you handle the zoning?
Excuse me?
Zoning, how do you handle the zoning?
The zoning is the zoning.
What's that? So you're saying that there's already a zone there that has the density levels that you're looking at?
Oh, you're asking about specifically the project at Sutton's Bay where we're.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're in the village and you're also outside the village, right? So you have to work with two different entities.
Well, we own property in right now in 4 different zoning that are regulated by 4 different zoning entities.
Yeah, that's fun, man.
Yeah, they're all different. There's 14 entities in the county that do zoning that you guys get to review.
Larry, not to interrupt you, but I think to answer Mr. Creaky's question of what about the zoning for that specific piece, is that I think you had already mentioned it's allowed, maybe not right there, but it is allowed within the township of Sutton's Bay somewhere, is what I gathered.
Yeah. We're excuse me, for that particular project on that particular site, we're seeking zoning amendments that would permit things that the township's master plan has identified as desirable, that would give us flexibility, like Mr. Nixon is on the planning commission, and we'll be talking to him next week in detail. One of the things that we want to be able to do to make this easier to develop is we want to have, well, the two probably most radical things is we want no minimum lot size, and we want no minimum dwelling size. We don't anticipate going crazy with that, but we are looking at, because of the fact that we do have to provide on-site well and septic, we really want to do this as a site condominium and have, unlike what I said in answer to you about who owns the well and owns the septic, in this case, we think it would be better if the condominium association owned the wells and septic, because then we can create a site condo that doesn't have to include that, and we can reconfigure things so that there's a community sort of drain septic system where
Efficiency of space.
it's efficiency of space and the reserve area that you have to have. The health department requires a drain field of a certain size, and the same amount of that kept as reserve space. That reserve space could be community gardens until a septic system fails and needs to be used. And in my notion of the long term, long term, this property is adjacent to the village's water and sewer system, and I think at some point in the future,
Likely to be tied in. Or could be.
At the time we acquired the property, there was an agreement between the village and the township that the village would extend water and sewer to that area. That has subsequently been revoked by the village, but we hope that at some point in the distant future, long after I'm dead, there will be a change and
Be prepared for it.
yeah.
It just seems like one of the big factors in making this thing go is the higher the density you can get, the better off it's going to be.
Probably. Density's not the
It's
overriding, but it helps.
exactly.
It helps a lot.
Factor, yeah.
Yeah. And to provide on-site well and septic, there's a limit on the density that you can do, because that just takes some space and some separation distance. So
The health department dictates that you can't change those rates.
the health department and Eagle.
But I'm just saying in terms of, those are kind of set standards.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to try and violate those standards.
Yeah.
They just consume
Well, I
land.
was not.
They consume land that if you have public water and sewer, don't consume land. So that's where you can get greater density in areas that are served by public sewer and water. It's not free. It's not free. I'm not, but it is one way to increase the density beyond what you can do with on-site water and sewer. And I think it's I shouldn't say what the reason for why the MISTA requirement to get federal tax credits is that you have to have community water and sewer, but they've been focused on urban areas that have it anyway. So great questions.
In the interest of time, and I appreciate you being here.
I'm hoping that we will be in front of you in the next couple of months with some.
Sound like you had something to forward to Gil that you can share with us.
I'll send Gail our market study. It's 120 pages long. She's going to expect that you will have read every page of it by your next meeting.
But no, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
We will see you soon.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go anywhere because my
No,
brother.
Well, okay, thank you, Larry. That concludes our new business. We're gonna move into reports, but before we address the general planning committee and get a report, there was a couple of questions about that committee and the purpose of it. And the general plan committee review is intended to update like facts and figures. I don't think at this time we're supposed to be changing really any of the language. That would require the broader board to review that document. And I don't think we're due for that for some amount of time. Correct me if I'm wrong, staff, but that's my understanding. And so we should be focused, committee members, the general plan committee should be focused on updating facts and figures, and not so much on changing language, or that would require a survey, that would require other obligations that we would have to fill in order to make those changes. So I just wanted to just be frank with everyone, and it had come to me, and so I figured, hey, let's just address it before the report of the general plan committee. I mean, I'm welcome to have a conversation about that, but I just wanted to make that known. And then if we don't have discussion related to that, then we can just move into the report from the general plan committee.
I mean, needless to say, if there were items that the committee discovers requires this body's deliberation, they would be brought back to us.
Yes, and that will be, I mean, staff will do the same thing.
Yeah, you're all gonna be reviewing the changes that were made.
Right, okay.
Any further discussion based on that statement? I will welcome a report from whoever would like to do that. That's on the general plan committee, please.
That was, same topic was discussed in our very first thing today. And, but, yeah. Majority of us felt the same way, and we proceeded with doing more work. Continuing with the review that we've been doing, we're now into chapter 8, and basically, yeah, we're focusing a lot on the things that can be changed, I guess, so to speak.
Okay, appreciate everyone's work on that too. I know it's kind of a grueling task, and I don't necessarily envy you guys having to do that, but it's very important and it's required. So we're getting caught back up and updating those figures. And again, if there are issues, please bring them to Gail and or I, and we will address them as needed.
One other comment.
Go ahead.
There are areas where currently there are issues that are unaddressed in the existing plan, right? That we've felt that we can't change the plan to accommodate this issue. That has to go through some different process. And so what really, at least in my mind, has to come in the long term is that in 5 years, so in 2030, right? We have to have a comprehensive review of the plan, or in fact, maybe even a major review.
Yeah, and
I think that's going to come maybe as an amendment or a letter to the commission or something of that nature. But it's silent on some pretty significant issues.
And you know, while this process happens, there is, you know, a ticking clock on, and I don't know the time, Gail, find out maybe or whatever. of when, if people would like to know when that actual like change of the master plan would occur. I mean, that's generally not gonna be this board making those changes is kind of my understanding, but
Would change like what he's referenced?
if there's like
Major changes?
incomplete, yeah, no, that's not what's happening right now. I think we made that clear. I just meant like later in the future, the
Oh.
master plan will be,
Oh, in
there
another
will be
5
a-
years.
yeah, so-
The commission can decide then what kind of changes if we survey again, you know.
that was the conversation that Gail and I had, was that in order to make those changes, we need updated information, and we don't have that information. So it will happen again, and those of us or whoever, you know, I may not be here at that time either, but those things will be addressed at that time. So with that, I think we can move into, unless anybody has something pressing they'd like to add, I think we can move on and have Lois give us a
Parks and
update.
Rec. Well, we missed our January meeting because of a blizzard. And so the February meeting was the organizational meeting. We reelected the chair, vice chair, and secretary as we had previously, you know, so they're repeated. And the assignments to the individual parks are all the same. You know, review of bylaws, budget. Ellen Campbell has a good idea, I think, about holding meetings in parks, so we kind of take our show on the road and ask for community input, so we actually can talk to the people who use the parks. I mean, personally, I feel a bit disjointed, and I'm in Suttons Bay, and you're in Casson Township, so the park that I'm part of is Miles Kimberly, and I'm a little in the dark as to how much usage we actually get in certain things, and looking at the master plan and the CIP plan, it doesn't seem like the high points in the survey are hit in the CIP plan. It's kind of, and I don't understand how we came to where we are. Just my own thing. We did get a grant for the pathway around the pond at Veronica Valley, and realizing how much paperwork there is involved in actually accomplishing the work and getting the reimbursement for the plant. It will take years. So, an awareness, if we apply for other grants, it'll take years. Yeah. So thanks.
Thank you, Lois. Moving on to communications, staff, do you guys have anything?
There are a couple of documents up here regarding housing survey results and the housing needs assessment. So I encourage you to take those, look at them. Back to the thoughts and ideas.
So that big number on there as the businesses that are anticipating we need in Leelanau County by 2027 is a scary number and unreachable, really. So as Larry was saying, you know, the number of units that the 3 nonprofits could possibly accomplish in a year or 2 years is a drop in the bucket. So it's not like we're going to change the landscape in Leelanau County by 3,000 housing units within 2 years. It's just not physically possible.
Anything else, Gail, or? Public comment?
Thank you for your service to the county. Seriously, I'm
Appreciate that, Larry. Staff comments?
Yeah, Jenny and I were out of the office for a few days last week. We attended ZAC training down in Mount Pleasant. So once we pass our exam, we will be certified zoning administrators.
There might be some need.
Certified.
Any other comments from staff? Commissioner comments? If anyone has any? The only comment I have is just an informative one. I am the newest member of the Leelanau Township Planning Commission. There was a resignation from the chair, Mr. Satterwhite, and so I kind of lobbied the township board to some extent, and it sounded like there was a number of applicants, and just voiced my, I want to help, and they gave it to me. So I was like, oh, okay, that's great. And so we're wading our way through this youth for Christ thing. You guys probably, it's a pretty big deal. It's on the news and stuff. So when that comes here, if and when that comes here, you know, we'll deal with it. But just so you guys are aware, I'm not on the sewer commission anymore. My understanding is you cannot hold both of those positions. So I was forced to resign from the sewer commission in Leelanau Township, but I was more interested in the planning commission position. So,
Congratulations.
so thank you.
Congratulations, we can go.
That's a fair point, Mr. Miller. You choose. And with that, I, entertain a motion, or we could simply adjourn it.
You're-